February 18th, 2001. A freezing Sunday night in Vienna, Virginia. A 56-year-old man in a dark overcoat walks alone through Foxstone Park, carrying a black garbage bag. He moves with purpose, checking over his shoulder, scanning the tree line for movement. He reaches a wooden footbridge over a frozen creek, kneels down, slides the garbage bag beneath the bridge, tucking it against the supports where it won't be seen. Inside that bag are thousands of pages of America's most classified secrets. The man stands, brushes off his knees, and turns to walk back to his car. That's when a dozen FBI agents emerge from the shadows, weapons drawn, flashlights blinding. They surround him in seconds. The man doesn't run, doesn't resist. He simply looks at the agents closing in and asks one question. What took you so long? His name is Robert Philip Hanssen. For 25 years, he has been a special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. For 22 of those years, he has also been a Russian spy. The man the FBI trusted to hunt Soviet moles was the mole himself. The Department of Justice would later call his betrayal possibly the worst intelligence disaster in American history. He sold 6,000 classified documents to Moscow. He exposed the names of Russian double agents working for America. At least 3 were executed. He revealed a secret tunnel the FBI spent hundreds of millions of dollars building beneath the Soviet embassy. He handed over America's nuclear war plans, and he did it all while attending Mass every Sunday, raising 6 children, and lecturing colleagues about patriotism. But here's what makes this story impossible to forget. Robert Hanssen wasn't recruited by the Russians. He walked into their office and volunteered. The question that haunted investigators for years wasn't how he did it. It was why. What turns a devout Catholic family man into the most damaging traitor in FBI history? And how did he fool everyone around him for more than 2 decades? April 18th, 1944. Chicago, Illinois. Robert Philip Hanssen is born into a family of German and Polish descent. His father Howard is a Chicago police officer. His mother Vivian is a housewife. From the outside, it looks like an ordinary American childhood. It wasn't. Howard Hanssen believed in discipline. He believed his son needed to be toughened up, made into a man. What he actually did was break something inside the boy that never healed. The punishments were creative in their cruelty. When young Robert misbehaved, his father would roll him up inside a carpet and leave him there, trapped and humiliated. He would spin the boy around until he vomited, lift him into the air by one ankle and hold him there. When Robert failed his driver's test, his father made sure he failed again. When Robert finally joined the FBI, his father mocked him. And on Robert's wedding day, Howard Hanssen looked at his son's bride and said, "You're marrying a loser." Decades later, a psychiatrist named David Charney would spend 100 hours interviewing Hanssen in prison. The very first story Hanssen told him was about being rolled up in that carpet. The shame had never left him. Dr. Charney concluded that this childhood created a man with crippling low self-esteem, a desperate need to prove his intellectual superiority, and an extraordinary ability to compartmentalize. To be one person in one moment and someone completely different the next. Robert Hanssen learned early that survival meant wearing masks. He would wear them for the rest of his life. He graduated from Knox College in 1966 with a chemistry degree, excelling in his Russian language elective. He applied to the National Security Agency for a cryptography position. They rejected him due to budget cuts. He tried dental school, dropped out after a year, switched to business and earned an MBA in accounting and information systems. Then, following in his father's footsteps despite everything, he joined the Chicago Police Department as an internal affairs investigator. The irony writes itself. A man who would become America's greatest traitor spent his early career investigating corrupt cops. In 1976, Robert Hanssen joined the FBI. He swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. 3 years later, He would break that oath in the most spectacular way imaginable. If you want to understand more about how spies, hackers, and scammers outsmarted every agency, subscribe. Now let's get back to the video. October 1979, New York City. Robert Hanssen has been an FBI agent for 3 years. He's assigned to a counterintelligence unit tracking Soviet spies operating on American soil. He has access to some of the most sensitive information in the U.S. intelligence community. One day, without any recruitment, without any pressure, without any apparent reason, Hanssen walks into the offices of Amtorg Trading Corporation in Manhattan. Amtorg is a Soviet trade company. It's also a well-known front for the GRU, Soviet military intelligence. Hanssen offers his services as a spy. His first betrayal is devastating. He reveals the identity of Dmitry Polyakov, a GRU general who has been secretly working for the United States since the 1960s. Polyakov is one of the most valuable intelligence assets America has ever had. The Soviets pay Hanssen roughly $20,000. For the next 2 years, Hanssen continues feeding information to the GRU. He's careful, anonymous. He never meets his handlers face-to-face. He uses dead drops, leaving packages in predetermined locations for the Russians to collect. Then, in 1980, his wife, Bonnie, catches him. She finds him in the basement of their home, reviewing documents that clearly shouldn't be there. When she demands an explanation, Hanssen lies. He claims he's running a counterintelligence operation, feeding the Russians false information to mislead them. Bonnie doesn't believe him. She forces him to confess to a priest from Opus Dei, the conservative Catholic organization they both belong to. The priest tells Hanssen he won't report him to authorities if he stops immediately and donates the money to charity. Hanssen promises to stop. He's lying. But he does pause. In 1981, he transfers to FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., and goes quiet for 4 years. Then 1985 arrives, and everything changes. October 1985. Robert Hanssen sits down and writes a letter to the KGB, the Soviet Union's primary intelligence agency. He offers to sell them everything he knows. This is the same year that Aldrich Ames, a CIA officer, begins his own espionage for the Soviets. America now has 2 moles operating simultaneously in its intelligence community. Neither knows about the other. Both are being handled by the same KGB officer, Viktor Cherkashin. In his first letter to the KGB, Hanssen compromises several sensitive surveillance techniques. He also reveals the identities of 2 KGB officers who have been secretly recruited by the Americans to spy for the United States. Both men are recalled to Moscow. Both are tried for espionage. Both are executed. Over the next 6 years, Hanssen becomes a hemorrhage of classified information. He gives the Soviets America's nuclear war plans, detailed strategies for how the United States would respond to a Soviet attack. He hands over information about advanced military technologies. On 2 separate occasions, he provides complete lists of American double agents operating inside the Soviet Union. He reveals details about Manhunt, measurement and signature intelligence, the spy satellites and signal intercepts that give America its technological edge. He compromises analytical products from across the entire intelligence community. He exposes how the FBI hunts Russian spies. And then there's the tunnel. Since 1977, the FBI and NSA have been secretly digging beneath the new Soviet embassy in Washington. The project is called Operation Monopoly. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars and takes more than a decade to complete. Soil is removed only at night. Security is absolute. The plan is to tap into Soviet communications directly from below their own building. It would be an intelligence goldmine. In September 1989, Hanssen tells the Soviets about the tunnel. They pay him $55,000. The tunnel never produces a single piece of useful intelligence. The Soviets know about it before they even move in. That same year, the FBI begins investigating Felix Bloch, a State Department official suspected of espionage. Hanssen immediately warns the KGB. They cut all contact with Bloch. The investigation collapses. The FBI can't understand how their target knew he was being watched. They begin to suspect there's a mole. They just don't know who. In 1990, Hanssen's own brother-in-law tries to turn him in. Mark Walk, also an FBI employee, reports to his supervisor that his sister found a pile of cash in the Hanssen home. He mentions that Hanssen once talked about retiring to Poland. He knows the FBI is hunting for a mole, but what came next would put Hanssen on maximum alert for months. December 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. Robert Hanssen watches the news with growing paranoia. In the chaos of regime change, old files might surface, defectors might talk. His anonymous arrangement with the KGB could be exposed. After collecting one final payment of $12,000, Hanssen cuts off all contact. For the first time in years, he stops spying. But he can't stay away. In 1992, desperate for money, he does something incredibly reckless. He drives to the Russian embassy in Washington. He approaches a GRU officer in the parking garage. He's carrying a package of classified documents. He identifies himself by his Soviet code name, Ramon Garcia. He describes himself as a disaffected FBI agent offering his services. The officer doesn't recognize the code name. He drives away. The Russians file an official diplomatic complaint with the State Department. They believe Hanssen is a triple agent trying to entrap them. The FBI investigates the incident. Somehow, inexplicably, the investigation goes nowhere. Hanssen escapes. The following year, he grows bolder. He hacks into a colleague's computer at FBI headquarters, prints out a classified document, and shows it to the colleague. His excuse is that he was demonstrating security vulnerabilities in the system. The FBI believes him. He also begins searching for his own name in FBI databases. He types Robert Hanssen into internal search engines, checking to see if anyone is investigating him. Nobody notices. In 1994, Hanssen expresses interest in transferring to the new National Counterintelligence Center. He withdraws his application when he learns the job requires a polygraph test. In 1997, a convicted FBI spy named Earl Pitts tells investigators he suspects Hanssen is also a mole. The FBI takes no action. For 8 years, Hanssen stays quiet. Then, in the autumn of 1999, he reaches out to the SVR, the Russian intelligence agency that succeeded the KGB. He's back in business. By 2000, the FBI knows they have a problem. When Aldrich Ames was arrested in 1994, his confession explained many of the intelligence failures of the previous decade. But 2 cases remained unsolved. The Felix Bloch investigation, the tunnel beneath the Soviet embassy. Someone else was leaking. The FBI pays $7 million to a former KGB officer for a file on the American mole. The file contains dates, locations, voice recordings, and a garbage bag used in a dead drop. The garbage bag has fingerprints on it. The voice recordings can be analyzed. Everything points to someone inside the FBI itself. Fingerprint and voice analysis confirm the identity. Robert Hanssen. But they need to catch him in the act. They need a smoking gun. In January 2001, the FBI creates a fake division called the Information Assurance Section. They offer Hanssen a promotion to lead it, along with an extension of his mandatory retirement. His new assistant is a 27-year-old counterintelligence operative named Eric O'Neill. O'Neill's real job is to spy on the spy. The office is wired with hidden cameras and microphones. 300 agents work the investigation around the clock. Hanssen is tracked from the moment he leaves his house in the morning until he returns at night. O'Neill walks a tightrope every day. He sits in the same room as America's most dangerous traitor, pretending to be a junior clerk while memorizing everything Hanssen says and does. One wrong move, one moment of suspicion, and Hanssen might realize he's being watched. The breakthrough comes when O'Neill manages to steal Hanssen's Palm Pilot. While Hanssen is briefly distracted, O'Neill grabs the device, rushes it to FBI technicians who download its encrypted contents, and returns it before Hanssen notices. The Palm Pilot reveals the date and location of Hanssen's next dead drop. February 18, 2001. Foxstone Park. O'Neill doesn't remember which pocket he took the Palm Pilot from. He later admitted that if Hanssen had noticed the device was disturbed, he might have shot O'Neill on the spot. What could a man who betrayed his own country for years be capable of next? What happened afterward was so unprecedented that Hanssen went on to be written into the FBI's rulebooks. That Sunday night, FBI agents position themselves throughout Foxstone Park. They watch as Hanssen's car pulls up to a residential street. They watch as he walks down the wooded path, carrying a black garbage bag. They watch as he slides the bag beneath the footbridge. When he turns to walk back to his car, they move in. What took you so long? It's the question of a man who always knew this moment would come. A man who had been playing a game for 22 years and finally lost. Inside the garbage bag are classified documents intended for Russian intelligence. Nearby, agents find another bag containing $50,000 in cash, the payment waiting for Hanssen. On July 6, 2001, Robert Hanssen pleads guilty to 15 counts of espionage. In exchange for avoiding the death penalty, he agrees to cooperate fully with investigators. At his sentencing on May 10, 2002, Hanssen addresses the court. "I apologize for my behavior. I am shamed by it. I have opened the door for calumny against my totally innocent wife and children. I have hurt so many deeply." The judge sentences him to 15 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Hanssen is sent to ADX Florence, the federal supermax prison in Colorado. He spends 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. His neighbors include Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, and Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bombing conspirator. On June 5, 2023, Robert Hanssen is found unresponsive in his cell. He's pronounced dead at age 79. The autopsy reveals colon cancer. He spent 21 years in prison. He never explained why he did it. The investigators who debriefed Hanssen found a man of impossible contradictions. He was a devout Catholic who attended Mass every Sunday and belonged to Opus Dei. He was also a man who installed a hidden camera in his own bedroom and secretly filmed his sexual encounters with his wife, transmitting the footage to a friend. He posted pornographic stories on the internet under his real name. He was a loving father of 6 who sent his children to Catholic schools. He was also a man who maintained a relationship with a Washington stripper, taking her on trips to Hong Kong and to FBI headquarters in Quantico. He gave her money, jewelry, and a Mercedes. When she offered him sex, he declined, saying he was trying to convert her to Catholicism. He was a fierce anti-communist who lectured colleagues about patriotism. He was also a man who sold his country's secrets to the Soviet Union for 22 years. The psychiatrist Dr. David Charney called him the most compartmentalized person he had ever met. Hanssen could be radically different people at different times, with different values and different moralities, as if the Robert Hanssen who went to church on Sunday had no connection to the Robert Hanssen who betrayed his country on Monday. When asked why he did it, Hanssen gave different answers at different times. Money, the thrill, the intellectual challenge, the need to feel superior. Eric O'Neill, the young agent who helped capture him, believes he knows the real answer. It was the thing that made him feel he was the best at something in the world. Nobody was better, and he knew it would make him immortal. The boy whose father called him a loser became the most damaging spy in American history. The man who spent his career hunting traitors became the greatest traitor of all. Robert Hanssen wanted to prove he was smarter than everyone. In the end, he proved only that the masks we wear can become prisons of their own. You've just watched one of the greatest espionage cases in United States history, perhaps one of the greatest in the world. If you want to follow more real cases like this, consider subscribing to the channel and comment below which stories you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.